Okay.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about reflecting, Jane.
Oh, reflecting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Reflecting after a lesson, when you have finished your session with your pupil, how important it is to go back over the lesson and see what they've achieved.
Yeah, absolutely. So often I see trainees at the end of the lesson just like getting their pupil back home and out they get. That's it. See you next week or whatever. There's no discussion about what's happened during the lesson and no reflection from the pupil at all, and maybe no identifying perhaps what they're going to work on next lesson.
Yeah, it's a really good time to set another goal because it's fresh in your mind. You know what's gone on. You will have stopped on the lesson anyway, granted, but actually, sort of putting all that into one big end of session story, how they feel. Lots of sorry about that. We have a lot of editing. But it's as important as the lesson, because without knowing where they've come from and going to, and reflecting on that and thinking about what they've reached or haven't reached, they won't know what they're going to do next session. And then when you get them thinking about what they're going to do next session, mentally they're already thinking about that, and it's a really useful tool when you get back in the car with them to go over in detail. Oh, do you remember when we did this and that blue car came past?
Yeah.
And it will bring it right back to their mind. And
Yeah.
it's so important because it helps you as an instructor to remember where you left off with that pupil. When you've got 20 pupils, you can't remember them all.
No. So having a reflective log is really effective. And it's just summarising the lesson at the end. But of course, reflection is important throughout the lesson as well. So you should be pulling over regularly just to find out whether or not your pupil is feeling happy, whether or not they're actually achieving what you want them to achieve and what they want to achieve. It's very simple to do. It's just a little chat at the side of the road.
Yes, it is.
Just a
Mini
few
reflections.
questions.
Yes, questions really important actually. So you don't say, "Oh, well, we did this there today." You're going to say, "How did you feel?"
Yeah. What went well?
Yep. The
What
old
didn't go
chestnut.
well?
What went well? What didn't go well? What do you want to improve? How are you going to do it? All of those very standard questions. I mean, you can phrase it in a different way, but that's what you're really asking. And if you get stuck, it's a really good standby. What went well? What didn't go well? What are you going to improve? How are you going to do that? Where are you going to do it?
Yeah. And you do that at the end, and then you're set up for the next lesson, because all you have to say at the start of the next lesson is, "Oh, what did we talk about doing today? How are you feeling about that?"
Yes, and they might not be feeling it.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a pupil pass today, great, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I really enjoyed the reflections." He said, had a friend who didn't note anything at the end of the session, just like you said. They got out of the car and that was it." He said, and he found the reflection really helpful. He said because he knew what he was doing next session, and even if he didn't feel like doing it, I said, "Well, how do you feel about doing that today?" And sometimes he would go, "Yeah," and very, very infrequently, but he would say, "I'm not in the right mindset to do that." And so we would say, "Okay, what is it you want to do?" But we always knew what the next goal would be after that session, because we come back to that original goal, go, right, okay, next time we'll do that again. We'll do that, what we were supposed to do today, next time.
Yeah.
And it's useful because it's so beneficial. It really is.
And if you're looking at it in terms of your part 3, if you've got that coming up, or a standards check, it's one of the competencies on the part 3 marking sheet. In fact, there's several competencies on that part 3 marking sheet about feedback and reflection.
Yes.
And the one at the bottom of the T&L strats is, did you encourage your pupil to reflect on their lesson? And that is about identifying areas for improvement. And it's not just reflection, it's about giving honest feedback as well.
And guess what I did on my first part 3? On my standards check, actually, on my first standards check, because the old standards check, I didn't do that. I was caught up in a moment and I forgot to do it, and that failed me my standards check. So it gave me such a low grade because they see how important that is. So I have never forgotten to do that since. So in many ways that was a beneficial thing to have gone through, but don't do that. Do the reflection.
I think you're in such a rush to get that test finished, aren't you? Just like, oh, thank God it's over, I just want it done, and we're back at the test centre, let's get out the car. So don't forget, it's really important to just spend those last few minutes of your test, even if you've run a little bit over, just spend the last few minutes just doing a bit of reflection, a bit of feedback, and just establishing some goal for the following lesson where there's some areas for improvement.
And a key word, as Emily said, it was where they encouraged. They aren't going to come out with it all on their own. So if they go, oh, it was okay, then you have to encourage it. So you'd have to say, well, what did you feel about this? How did you feel about that? Where were you when you started the lesson? What number were you at? What level were you at?
Yeah.
Were you independent? Did you become more independent on the session? You really have to work at this. This is important. And actually, the more you do that, the better they'll get at their own reflection.
I think that just about sums it all
Oh,
up, really.
yes, okay. So I've
On
got it
reflection,
again.
I think we're done.
On reflection, we're done. Okay.
Like and follow. See you soon.
Bye.